Welcome to the Progress Zone podcast, where we help you create real momentum in your mindset, business, health, and life. I'm your host, Jody Donaldson, and every week we'll explore the small, intentional steps that lead to big, lasting growth. This isn't about hype, it's about habits. So let's get started. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to the Progress Zone podcast. Today's conversation is about something almost everyone struggles with, but very few people truly solve. We live in a world of extremes when it comes to health and nutrition. We are either all in or all out. We're either on track or off the rails. And somewhere along the way, progress gets replaced by frustration. My guest today helps people step out of that cycle, not by chasing perfection, but by building balance that actually lasts. She's a nutritionist who focuses on sustainable habits, realistic expectations, and helping people develop a healthier relationship with food, their bodies, and themselves. Gretchen Comey, welcome to the Progress Zone.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I've been looking forward to this conversation. I know you have a lot of truth bombs that you're going to be able to drop today, and we're going to be able to have a really good conversation. I think it's going to help a lot of people, especially now during that we're filming this during the holiday time. So December's always a tough time, and the beginning of the year with folks having new resolutions and things like that. So I think this is going to be perfect timing to share all the wisdom that you have. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you.
So you and I have known each other for several years now. We have trained together. We have worked out at the same boot camp. We've done winter fitness challenges together, and we even ran a Ragnar race on the same team. So,
that's right.
So I've seen firsthand how you show up, and it's not just as a nutritionist, but as someone who just really lives the lifestyle consistently. You are a motivator, you are a team player. And so for the people listening, though, who don't know you the way that I do, how would you describe your philosophy around health, balance, sustainability, kind of like what the world that you're in now?
If I had to use one word, the first word that comes to my mind is grace. And I think that's a funny word to use around nutrition. I think part of the problem and struggle that a lot of people have is they live in the space where nutrition is supposed to be about discipline and rigor and wanting. And, it's like, how hard can I struggle? How much can I cut? How hard do I have to work? And I think if you leave that space, you're going to be much better off in the long run, not only from a sustainability standpoint, but I'm also a real firm believer in whatever is going on up here in your mind, your body is listening. And so if nutrition becomes another club that you are beating yourself with mentally, you're never going to get anywhere good. So it all, I think, boils down to just kind of grace and balance.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's so true. I don't think any of us show enough grace to ourselves sometimes. Like, I think it's such a fast pace. We've got to go. What's the next thing? And it's kind of like sometimes you just got to, hey, it's okay. We're okay where we're at, and we're working on it. And, I think that goes a long way. Was there something like early on, you've been in shape, working out, done a lot of things, but was there something that you discovered the hard way just through your own experiences about nutrition?
A lot. I actually don't know where to start with that question, because the truth is a lot. And there were a couple different points that come to mind, and I'm going to go in chronological order just so you're kind of on my journey with me. And one of them was, I was always active. I wouldn't say I was like fit, but I played sports in high school. I was an active person. It was also a different era in the 80s and 90s. We were outside, we were walking around, riding bikes, that kind of stuff. So, there was that. And then I did not play in college. So that college environment and the activity level was completely removed. And at the same time, you're on your own as far as nutrition goes. And what are you going to eat? Fast food is easy. D-Hall, what tastes good, those kinds of, your parents aren't making you eat your vegetables, right? So all that kind of stuff creeps up on you. So, that was kind of the first aha moment, after a year or two at college, where I was like, okay, wow, this matters. I need to make some adjustments. But that was a fairly easy adjustment. It was an important aha, but an easy correction because of the age I was at and the freedom that I had in my schedule to allow me to kind of do those things. Then the next one really came right around the time I was meeting you. So I had been prior to being a nutritionist, I was one of those corporate, white collar workaholics. Everything about my self-worth and motivation was all tied up in billable hours and how fast I could climb that corporate ladder. So that meant I had an hour and a half, sometimes two, depending on traffic, commute each way into the city. I was on a bus, I was on a train, and then I was walking blocks. Then you're at the desk, for like 12, 15 hours. Then you do the hour and a half back. Maybe you eat, maybe you don't. And just, my health got out of whack, and it never got out of control, but certainly out of whack. And then came the kids. And that really kind of changed everything. And I had heard from my husband's coworker's wife, found out we had moved to South Riding. And she said, well, if your wife is looking to lose the baby weight, she should really check out this boot camp. And so I heard about it, and I think the story. I stalked it. I think it was like almost 2 years. So I had my son, my second kid, and I had heard about this boot camp. Like, they work outside. They're freaking crazy. And not only do they work outside, but they work outside. It was like this perfect location. On one side, you have a Starbucks, and on the other side, you have a Dairy Queen. So,
DQ, baby.
I mean, I was driving by a lot, but for all the wrong reasons. But finally had some friends who were kind enough to agree to come with me so I wouldn't have to show up alone. And, the rest is kind of history. And then those winter challenges that you talked about, tapped into everything I love. I love any kind of team, anything. Like, I love team sports, team competitions. I don't care if it's like a trivia night or, like a field day race or, an actual lacrosse game. Like, if it's a team competing, like, we're in it, we're going to win. I'm going to be screaming for everybody. I really, really love that stuff. And no surprise to you. But that year, and it was you brought us, you introduced us to Nelly. And it was the first time that I had learned about macros. And, I had worked with, KBC has a nutritionist. Actually, I should back up. She was the first one. Amy Beyer is another nutritionist at KBC. And my first sit down with her was because it's like, all right, I'm here. I'm showing up all the time and nothing is happening. Like, why isn't anything happening? And so she helped me kind of audit my diet. And I was skipping breakfast. I was microwaving frozen vegetables for lunch at the office, and then whatever for dinner. And she's like, Gretchen, like, you're getting maybe a quarter of the protein you need in a whole day. And I'm like, who cares about protein? I'm eating vegetables and I'm skipping meals. Like, shouldn't I?
Right.
So, that 1 hour with Amy Beyer was the first pivot point in, like, the kind of spark that went off. Like, okay, what you eat matters just as much, if not more, than what you're doing. Because Amy gave me, it was like a 3-point plan. It was like this for protein, this for water, and pay attention to like some fiber and veggie things. It was like so easy, and boom, results came immediately. And so I was like, all right, nutrition is where it's at. And then you coupled that with our winter challenge team, and the year that you introduced us to Nelly, and she put us all kind of on this macro plan where it wasn't just what you were eating, but how important the ratios were, and that the ratios, one size doesn't fit all, right? It was a kind of a custom calculation for your specific body is going to need, what your body needs versus what my body needs are different. If we're both just trying to get 100 grams of protein, it's going to look, the outcomes are going to be different for you versus me. And so that, understanding that, and then watching our team go through that process. I want to say we were close to 20 people on our team that year, and not everybody did macros. There was a good cohort of folks that were like, no, I'm going to keep doing what I always do.
Right.
And at the end of the session, we get the whole team results. So we can see, how much did everyone lose, not only in the weight on the scale, which we all know is like the least important metric. We also got to see what the outcomes looked like on a body fat percentage ratio context and a muscle mass context. And so while we all per person averaged close to the same amount of weight loss, the people who followed the macros, they didn't lose any muscle. And not only that, almost every one of us who followed the macro approach gained muscle while also losing fat, which means in terms of a body fat, what was the body fat outcome lost? We were shredding body fat.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. I was still working corporate world. And I was a data scientist. I did market research. We built data models to analyze and predict outcomes for buyer behavior, voter behavior, all those types of things. So like when I started seeing those numbers, I was totally sold. That's all I needed to know. This stuff works. And then year after year, every time I went back to the winter challenge, I helped and whoever wanted to, hey, look, I know this works. If you want, I can help you find the right targets for you. And so we did that. I think it was either 4 or 5 more years. I did the contest after that year. And every single year, our team won. Every single year, the people who followed the macro plan outperformed everyone else, not only on our team, but in the boot camp. I mean, that's why we would win. And so didn't matter if you're a man, didn't matter if you're a woman, didn't matter if you were in menopause, didn't matter if you were 32, didn't matter if you worked out twice a week, didn't matter if you worked out 7 days a week. Because it's a custom approach, it was going to serve you. And so those were kind of my big 3 wow moments where I not only was converted to its power and impact, but then just personally insatiably curious about what else don't I know in this space and how do I figure it out?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think to your point, like, it took like seeing the numbers and the data to actually then kind of be like, wait, this, there's more to this than just, oh, it's hard, or I got to track this, or I got to, like, it was truly working and changing body compositions, and it was happening faster than it normally would, because of the discipline and whatnot. Before like you had even come to the boot camp before, had you fallen into like the extremes of the diets or the plans?
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Did you try carnivore or keto, or did you do any of these things?
So I'm old enough that it wasn't keto before; it was called Atkins.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the kind of zero carbs. I had done that.
Right.
I had done intermittent fasting before it was intermittent fasting, where I would just be skipping meals and just have 1 meal a day. I never really went vegetarian, but I did do like a lot of veggies or salads only for every meal except dinner. I had cut carbs. I had done all of that. And I had done like the crazy cardio. I had done things like where you'd work out and then go into like a sauna, or, work out. It's like, it was like the kind of packaging and pairing up that I was trying to do, thinking like the harder I worked, the more results I would get. Right. And I think that's actually one of the reasons that I think I turned to not just being, like I said, I was personally very, very curious, but once I started to understand what I was doing wrong and how great I felt when I was doing it right, not only like I was getting results, felt great, but like actually felt great, like had energy, wasn't mentally, mean to myself anymore. That negative self-talk really quieted down, the cravings diminished, the sleep was better. And then being able to walk through the KBC teams, to walk through that experience with so many other people and see them have that same kind of, oh my God, misery and deprivation isn't required. I remember, I don't want to name names, but I do remember there were 2 women specifically who came to me at the end, and they were like, I'm in my 50s. This is the lowest body fat I've ever had in my life. And I've never eaten more food.
Yeah.
It was like, you don't need, in fact, if you're doing it right, if your macros are balanced for your body and your activity level, 9 times out of 10, the most common feedback I get is, I'm stuffed.
Yeah.
Like I can't eat what you're telling me to eat. And that typically tends to be the problem that we end up solving. So I absolutely was on the very negative pendulum swing of making it way harder than it had to be, making myself way more miserable. I have fallen into every single diet trap, bait approach that is out there. Yeah. So I have a lot of I have a lot of appreciation for people who are willing to put that down and try this different approach, because it took me that whole year process to actually see the data, before I was really willing to dive in. And so when people are really willing to just kind of go out on a limb without the benefit of all of that, I think that's really, really cool.
Well, and I feel like too, kind of as society, like the overload of information that's on the internet, fake, real, whatever it is, it's overwhelming, and people get lost in that. So then they are like, well, I'm going to do this for a while and try it, or I'm going to do this. And there's really no structure to it unless they're part of one of those programs. But then they all gain it back as soon as it's over. And it's just this cycle that just, I feel like, perpetuates itself over and over. And like part of this podcast in my book was that, progress is built through consistency. It's not perfection. But I feel like so many times we're built that, if you mess up a day or miss a meal or miss it, it's like an all or nothing mindset that folks have. Yeah. And I think it stalls them when it comes to their health. Do you run into that when you're talking with some of your clients and learning about their background? Like, do they just feel like as soon as they go off the rails a little bit, it's over and kind of defeats themselves?
I absolutely do. I think there's not a single client that I've worked with that hasn't had some level of feeling like they've failed when they've made a single mistake.
Right.
And this is myself included. I can speak from personal experience, years and years and years, like yesterday. I'm still there. I still have to be conscious about like, wait, not that big of a deal. Here's what you do next.
Yeah.
And one of the power for me in macros is actually its ability to, I think a lot of people, the most resistance I get when I'm working with people around macros is that initial tracking stage. And it's an unavoidable step. There has to be an awareness of what you are eating, and so you know how to tinker and tweak the ratios to start working for you. But once you've figured it out, we are all creatures of habit pretty much. And so if you can invest, 7, 10, 20 days in tracking, again, for that like freedom of now I know what a typical day looks and feels like in terms of on the plate and on the go. I work with, I live my life a lot in the car recently with how my kids have aged. And so 2 kids and travel sports, I am gone a half the year. I'm never home on the weekends. So it's like I have had to learn how to keep myself on track at Chick-fil-A and Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts and Uncle Julio's. And you can. It is absolutely doable. It's a little bit of research, but I'm never investing more than like 10, 15 minutes of research on when I'm talking about those types of experiences. And even like with that upfront tracking, I don't think it's as big of a lift as people think it is. It's kind of a mental hurdle to get over. But where I wanted to go with you on that failure piece is once I had targets, and I am a very gold star check, I want to see the item crossed off the list. I want the check in the box. I want the sequence of gold stars on a calendar, to not break the chain. So that stuff speaks to me. And so when I had targets to work for, which you do in macros, and the targets are custom. So it's not like if you're doing macros, everybody's doing the same thing. Right. When I say macros, for anyone who doesn't know, all I'm saying is that there is a custom amount of protein, a custom amount of carbohydrates, and a custom amount of fat that I, Gretchen Comey, need to get in a day to feed the muscle mass that I have and the activity level that I do. That's what I mean when I say macros. So it is a custom calculation for everybody. But once I have those targets, the targets don't change, but how I talk about them with new clients in terms of dollars. So it's kind of like a budget. So you have 100 protein dollars or 100 sugar dollars or 100 fat dollars, however you want to spend your money, it's up to you. And sometimes the absolute best use of your, fat budget that day might be the birthday cake. You're celebrating your kid's birthday. Yeah. Don't sit in the corner and eat a salad. No, like sit next to them. Let them smush cake in your face, whatever it is. Or, I have regular dates with my kids. They almost always Dunkin' Donuts is where they want to go. So I did a little bit of my research, right? Like I know which breakfast sandwich is going to get me the most, the right ratios, or which donut is going to have the lowest sugar or whatever. So I can still kind of, enjoy, and it's not going to blow a day.
No.
I can have a donut for breakfast or in the morning, not for breakfast, but I can have a donut in the morning. I could have lasagna and a glass of wine for dinner. And all that means is now my center of my day is just a little bit more structured because I haven't given myself as much wiggle room.
Right.
But that to me is the enlightening part. There's actually, with a little bit of upfront prep, the freedom that is unlocked on what the can and can'ts, that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Now it's just decisions that you make every day. The same way that you decide, am I going to go to Starbucks this morning or am I going to brew my own coffee?
Yeah.
Am I going to pack a sandwich for lunch today or am I going to go out with my friends?
Right.
There is no bad decision. There's no wrong decision. It is just a decision that you make every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so true. And I think too, so many folks are kind of, even as the kids age, like you're a taxi right now and you're gone all the time. And I know that most of the people in my demographic and your demographic are just super busy, super stressed. They're juggling a lot of responsibilities. And it is hard because a lot of times I'll be like, I just got to get something, and they'll just run through a drive-through. But doing a little bit of that research ahead of time is actually kind of like a game to be like, okay, remember the books like Eat This, Not That? Like I used to love those back in the day. Like I don't even know if they're still there, but I used to love those because I'd be like, okay, I eat this instead of that if I'm going to go to this restaurant, and I would do that. But I feel like when folks do have a donut or something like that, that sometimes the mindset that just gets them completely off track. And to your point, it's like, it's not going to like that just enjoy the moment with your family, friends, kids, whatever, and then pick back up right the next day and just get your protein. And I mean, I know it sounds simple and yet I know it's really hard for a lot of people. So I respect that for them. But if someone who wants to start making that progress without the feeling of overwhelmed, do you have one or two simple shifts that tend to make a big difference when you're starting working with someone?
Yes. The number one thing we do is we identify at least one. There's always one, but we identify what are the top things they need more of. And we start there because it is a different mindset to get more in than to cut things out.
Yeah.
And so and typically if they're getting in the more that they need, they tend to not be as hungry or have as much cravings or blood sugar volatility, and therefore kind of crashes in the afternoon. So they're almost immediately going to feel better if they're getting the right level of the good stuff. And so that's where we start. And for most people, I will say it's one of, if not all three of the following, which is water, protein, and fiber. Protein is the macro. The other two are technically macros, but one, if not all three of those things are going to make a huge difference. And all are directly related to body composition or weight loss, if that's your focus, and energy level. And as we age, it's just even taking it a step back, there's always a win. Anytime I'm talking to somebody, there is always a win. And so if you train your brain to count the wins, stack the wins, collect your wins each day, maybe your win is not breakfast. Okay. If you're feeling any kind of bad way about how you started your day, maybe you skipped breakfast, maybe it was a donut, maybe it was whatever you are not being kind to yourself about. Well, did you get a workout in already? Did you have a glass of water before your coffee? Did you take the stairs instead of the elevator? I mean, there's so many other things that you can look to and do. And then all of a sudden you've got 3 or 4 wins in your brain. You're not even thinking about the donut anymore. Nope. And you want to collect more wins, and then it becomes more motivating. So it's just really look for the win. It's a kind of a play on the Eat This, Not That, right? It's never mind what you didn't do good. What have you done well today? What are you proud of? What's the next thing you can do to build on that? And typically once you find that one thing, you'll realize, oh my God, I wasn't even thinking about it.
Right.
A lot of people have good habits that they don't give themselves credit for because they're so hyper-focused on not nailing the new habit they're trying to adopt. And that's not fair.
Yeah. Well, and what you said too, it makes me think so many people, if their morning goes bad, they overslept, they grab something not healthy and they just jump in the car and they write the day off. It's almost like defeated by like 9 a.m. They're like, I'm done. I've already ruined the whole day. Forget it. I'm going to eat whatever I want. And it's kind of like, no, just reset the moment that you're in for the rest of that day. And then the whole day's not shot, right? Like, but 100%. For some reason, I feel like people just write it off and like, oh, I've already screwed up. I'll start tomorrow. Well, we know how that usually works for a lot of folks is the momentum for the good stuff that you talk about. We create that momentum for the bad stuff and the negative when we do, right? As soon as we slip, people just continue to do that until they change it. And like you said, stacking the wins, I think makes a big difference because mentally, I think we feel better. You realize, hey, I can do this. It builds self-confidence. It motivates you to continue. And then I think it creates a playbook for the rest of that week. And then if you can go 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, well, now you're in a rhythm that's going to make that momentum continue, I think. But sometimes it's just that first few transition weeks where they're just really trying to get a grasp on everything. Is there one nutrition myth you see that people hold on to that you wish they just finally let go of? I know there's probably more than one, but
I want to be careful here with the answer. I think the biggest umbrella one is kind of the whole calories in, calories out thing. Yeah. On a number of levels, but first and foremost is it's not just the calories in, calories out equation. What those calories are made of matters, which is why I'm such a big fan of macros. But even beyond that, I think most people who are specifically trying to lose weight or not even lose weight, just trying to improve their health, feel healthier, skew to be under eating. And that there's a cascade of negative impacts when you're not fueling appropriately. Yeah. And so I think people get a little too hung up on the quantity of food instead of the quality. I think I'm going to go with that. Okay.
No, I like that. I mean, I think that makes sense. And, it just made me think. So just both personally and through talking to lots of people that have gone through this experience and trying to maximize and optimize their bodies and everything. A lot of times it's rarely even about the food. There's such an emotional and mental side of it. How much of the work that you do with clients is really about their mindset, emotions, or self-talk rather than just the nutrition itself?
Well, first, it's a huge part of any client I've worked with, but I kind of view that as my biggest job as a coach or a program leader is how can I help be the crutch to your self-talk until you get there on your own, because it's hard enough to logistically to adopt a new program and new meal plans. Just like you said, I mean, the women that I'm working with, well, and some men, but the people that I'm working with are spread incredibly thin, incredibly active kids, high demanding jobs. Many of them even have parents they're caring for now too. So there's not a lot of bandwidth to do extra work. And so what I like about working with clients in a very small groups, my groups tend to be that kind of 8 to 15 is my ideal group size, so that I can really have a sense, my finger on the pulse of their life, sure, what their struggles are. And then I can track their wins. You know what? Take that off your plate. That's my job. Let me tell you what I'm seeing from here. You did this day 1, this day 2, you're already on, day 14. And you haven't missed, I think that can be often more powerful coming from an outside source than also putting it on yourself to come up with a good story to tell yourself on top of everything else, that you're trying to do. I kind of look at, I understand it's a big part of the effort that they're undertaking, but I also view it as the biggest responsibility I have in working with any client is let me kind of own that piece and I will document your wins for you. and make sure that you don't miss any. I will tell you, I will show you, I will cheer you on. I also really like to build in regular checkpoints and not anything too automated. Like I'm not a huge fan of like every week, let's connect or whatever, but like kind of milestones. So, when people are running this fast in this many different directions, every week can become, when I tried to do every week, it was almost like an automated response, from live human being. Yeah, good. I need more water. I need more it's like, well,
more.
Yeah. Like, because we all know what we need to do.
Right.
We have our shortcomings on autopilot. I can rattle those off to anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Yes.
But if we spaced it out a little more, and it became like this halfway checkpoint, where I had another opportunity to let me tell you all the amazing things I've seen you do here. Did you realize you were doing this? Where do you feel like you're falling down? Because 9 times out of 10, I'm not seeing it. And so when I get to hear from them what the struggle points are, then we have a very specific problem, a very specific course correction that we can implement. And then the back half, I like to use those like check-ins. So now there's a little bit more accountability with like, we identified this one problem, this one obstacle. Now, how can we be intentional about like the back half of our time together, make sure we overcome this obstacle together? I know you're capable. I've seen what you've done the first, 3-4 weeks. So let's kind of iron that out. So I do like to take the lead on that, take that on. The other thing that I'll say is really powerful about the group environment, and this is something I've 100% learned and then adopted from Kelly and Kelly's boot camp and everybody there. Actually, I don't know if I could name all the names, but a group setting is so important, because some of what I'm talking about like taking the responsibility of documenting wins in a group environment, people are so uplifting, that those small groups, and they are very quick to cheer each other on. And so if you can find, even if it's just one partner, whether it's your spouse, your best friend, a coworker, somebody else who wants to do the same change or journey with you, just even one other person, they are going to be your biggest cheerleader, and they are not going to want to let you down, meaning just your presence, just their presence. It's going to create that upward momentum. So I know that's not nutrition plan specific, but I think from a logistic implementation standpoint, if you can do something with a partner and have a little bit of accountability, like shoulder to shoulder, not just face to face with a coach, you're going to do more and better things than you would on your own.
No, I love that. And I love that you pointed out the group environment, because I do feel the same way, that it is so, whenever you're in that environment and it's a judgment-free zone and people can be vulnerable and you're learning and growing together, I feel like that environment can break that cycle of guilt and shame that probably all of us have felt at different times surrounding food and body image, right? Like everybody is so uplifting and encouraging, and it is a safe space. And I feel like when you have like-minded folks that are coming together to work through what it is that they're trying to gain, and that camaraderie and friendship, and I feel like that just encourages it. And then it has like a little additional accountability too, right? So it's like, Gretchen, you weren't at class the other day, or you weren't in the same, like,
right.
Where were you? Like, what's going on, right? So then there's that little bit of peer pressure, like, but it motivates you because you're like, I don't want to let so-and-so down. I said I'd be there Tuesday, or,
yes,
or I said I was going to eat this week and I did, and I don't want to be, the one that didn't hold my end of the bargain up. So
yeah. I mean, look, I'm technically a nutritionist. I still have a group, a tiny little group of myself, 2 friends. And whenever we feel like we're getting off the rails, the 3 of us huddle up on a text chain. And whether it's a week or 2 weeks or 3, whatever we need, but we'll, at a minimum, kind of a week, and we'll just do snapshots of our MyFitnessPal entries or pictures of our meals that day, or and we'll do that for at least a week just to get right back on track. Yeah. And not because they could care less, what I'm eating, but if they know I'm going to send them a picture and I know they're going to send me a picture, none of us, that if nothing else, we're just tracking, right? Yeah. Which will help. And, I still do that. That's something I benefit from, still knowing everything I know, being plugged into this kind of world as long as I have, and I still need that and benefit from that.
Well, and I think, this conversation is touch so much, not so much just on the nutrition, but so much of the mental game, right? Like, and I feel like that just continues to evolve as folks start seeing these results and start feeling better. But like, to stay in the game mentally, I think matters just as much as what you're doing physically when it comes to the long-term health, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do you help them understand that staying in the game? And I know we mentioned it a little bit before about, you track their wins to help them see it. But is there something that you're seeing that has worked besides, the group and some of the things that we've done to keep them mentally in there, even when stress hits, when life stress, family stress, work stress hits, so that they don't go down a negative slope of self-talk and things like that?
There's overlap with what I was just saying, but it's a tiny reframe of stacking the wins. And it's just like, pick one thing.
Yeah.
So, if they know, for example, inevitably when I have a group program going on, somebody's got a vacation or anniversary dinner or, business trip or something that, they're already creating stress about. And anyone who is invested in health and following science and the latest, discoveries knows the impact that stress has on our bodies, our minds, weight, all of it. And so when I'm getting that feedback from clients, or, something stressful is coming up, whatever it is, it's like, all right, then just pick one thing. Just pick one thing. And let's be smart about what that one thing is. Don't pick the hardest thing. Pick one thing. And then it becomes an opportunity for them to maintain control in something that they were anticipating to be highly stressful and like a no-win scenario. And instead, what we've done is we've made sure that they have a win that they can cling to throughout the entire stressful event. And sometimes it's as simple as water. Sometimes it's sleep. And I know that seems counterintuitive with nutrition, but if you know you are going to be burnt out and taxed, whether it's physically or emotionally or mentally, sleep is where your body does so much of the good stuff, muscle repair, fat burning, all the kind of, getting that stuff. So, nutrition to me it is, I very intentionally named my company Nourish, because to me, it's how do you nurture? How do you take care of yourself? And I do believe that food plays a huge role, but it is not the only thing. And so in those times, it's just pick the one thing. It's easy to remember, and we can be strategic about what it is, so that you always have that win to cling through.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. It made me think. So a component of this. So we've done some long races and tough workouts together that kind of test us mentally just as much physically, right? On those, what do those endurance experiences kind of reveal, or how do they connect to like the sustainability and balance that translate directly into like nutrition and health, right? Endurance to do the actual event, but like, I feel like it kind of ties into, you've got to have that endurance for the long game of what we're trying to do, right? It's not going to happen overnight, but this is a lifelong thing we should all be striving to work toward. But how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like,
that's a great question. I love it. And my mind immediately went to a story that I'll tell and then unpeel that if I'm not too long-winded. But, the Ragnar, I forget what each person ultimately is responsible for. It was like 26 or 29 miles. I don't know. And I'm not a runner, but they're what what your legs add up to, and it's a lot. And I remember, as I'm packing up my stuff, and I was definitely nervous. It was just, also the temperatures were going to be pretty brutal for us. We did it in September in DC. So, it's like 102. And we almost lost Andrew. But I remember, I was starting to get a little nervous, like, what in the heck I'm not a runner. What am I even doing? And, my husband told me as I'm packing up, he's like, stop thinking about what you have to do and just think about what you're doing. Look around, take in the scenery. We were doing a road Ragnar, meaning the scenery was changing the entire time. So he's like, stop thinking about what you have to do and just think about what you are doing. Yeah. And if you're, feeling tired, look around, take it in. you're probably never doing this again. Just take it in. And I absolutely remember those words popping into my mind at two specific points. And one was my longest leg, my 9-miler was overnight. So I was running through cornfields or some type of field in Maryland, like farms in Maryland, in the pitch black. And I was like kind of looking around like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And the novelty and the difficulty, like just everything, I was so distracted. I mean, the levity of those words entering my mind and then looking around and actually taking it in, I was so entertained. I don't know how much time that bought me of mental distraction, but, it worked. And then again, my last leg, and this was like peak temperatures, and I was running not along the tidal basin, but I could see it. And it was just like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Yeah. Like just the whatever river, I'm not going to say it and be wrong, but you're looking across the river, you could see the monument, you could see the cherry blossoms, you could see just all the majesty that kind of is DC from close enough you could see it and far enough that you had the whole skyline. Just being like, wow, what am I doing? This is so cool. And so that popped into my mind, and I think about that. It's stop antagonizing yourself about what you have to do later or next. The laundry listing is killing us. Instead, think about, what are you doing? What are you going to do right now? What's the one thing you can do right now to enjoy yourself, to nourish yourself, to get a little bit better? And if you just think about that one time, the next 5 minutes, it's so doable.
Yeah. And I think that endurance too of when you break it down like that, and what do they say? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? Like, don't think about the big picture. Yes. Just look at what you got to do and embrace it. And I think that sustainability, like if you can get to that place, it's going to always outperform the intensity of the moment, right? Because it's that slow, gradual consistency. And I mean, endurance is a word that keeps popping up. I hate I used it a bunch, but I mean, that's where it gets me to think like this is a long game. And I feel like for all of us, I mean, there's so much information out about, longevity and all the things they're trying to correlate it to. And the blue zones and, the skeletal muscle mass is so much more important, and all these things, that grip strength, how it ties into how long you're going to live and be able to hold yourself upright. If you go to fall in your 80s, you can catch yourself if you're stronger, all these things. So I definitely love that. And I do think that if you can build up some endurance and think about it and break it down, that's going to be those stacking those wins and getting it in the long run. So,
absolutely. I think it's everything you said, all of the things that you listed off, it brings to mind, there's like I don't know if meme is the right word, but some type of like viral video I've seen online. And it's like a woman and she's looking into the camera and she's talking like this. And oh, great. All I have to do is to have 10,000 steps every day and drink a gallon of water. And she laundry lists all these things in this really just dead soul, deadpan delivery. Right. And it's made for you to feel like, oh, I just can't win. Who can do all of this stuff? Right. And I watched that, and my interpretation is, she just listed 20 possible things you could do to improve yourself. That's not that doesn't need to be an all or nothing.
Mandatory.
Yeah. Pick one thing that speaks to you and do that thing. Because to your point, the consistency. If you never work out again and you never track macros, but you always get 10,000 steps a day, you're going to be better off than making 0 changes.
Yeah.
If you never leave your desk and you eat a case of donuts every day, you can tell I'm obsessed with donuts. I do eat a lot of donuts. I'm going to be very honest here. A lot of donuts and a lot of Popeyes biscuits. But, it doesn't need to be all or nothing. And so to me, it's strategy. It's knowing yourself. It's that grace. Give yourself the grace. You are never going to be able to do everything. Any influencer you see isn't doing everything. They might be cycling through everything on the list, but they're never doing every single thing all at once, all the time, forever.
Yeah.
Nobody does. So you pick the 1 or 2 things you can stick with and you do that.
Yeah.
If and when they become habits, maybe you add a couple more. or as your lifestyle changes. We've talked about just the seasons of life with whether it's the time of year dictates your schedule or the age of your kids dictates your schedule. All of those things create new opportunities to drop some habits, pick up some new habits. We got to be so much nicer to ourselves.
Yes, we do. We do.
I saw another thing on online, and it was another one of those meme things. And it was, imagine that you were to inhabit the body of the person you loved most in the world. And you would be in their body for a year, and then you had to give it back to them. What would you be doing differently for that year than you're doing now? And just speaking of kindness, how we are capable of so much kindness. I've seen it. It's incredible what we're willing to do for other people at the expense of ourselves. And if we could give ourselves just a little fraction of that love and forgiveness and patience and encouragement, your life would change. Full stop. Yeah. Nutritionally, spiritually, mentally, any kind of facet of life you want to talk about. So you're right. Nutrition is not just about food. Or nourishing yourself is not just food. It is everything.
It's everything. And, I think the thing too is, a lot of the stuff we've talked about today is just, these are things that folks can incorporate to feel stronger and healthier and confident in the next 5 or 10 years. Like that's that long race, right? Like these are the things that if you just start doing 1 or 2 of these things, it's going to make all the difference. And it's going to keep you motivated and build that momentum. I think that then makes it easier for you over time. And then you're not going to slip back into some of those ways. Because we've talked about a lot of different things and just doing the one thing. So I know there's a lot of people probably listening. It's like, I don't even know where to begin. Well, there's a laundry list of things, and just do one. Just drink your water, like you said. Get 8 hours of sleep if you need it. Do some of these things that help you feel like you can get in the mindset and the space to then now work toward a workout 1 or 2 times a week, or 10,000 steps a day or something. I think it's so important, and it sounds so easy, but it's not for so many people.
I still go through cycles where I completely, water is a big one that I have to consciously reset at least 3 or 4 times a year. Just something happens that knocks me off.
Yeah.
And it could be as simple and uncontrollable as like just getting sick, right? Yeah. Like I get knocked out with the flu or whatever virus the kids bring home. And all of a sudden it's been 4 days and I'm sweating everything out because of the fever. And like, I haven't, my throat hurts. I don't want to swallow. And then I'm feeling better and I've completely dropped the water habit, and I got to consciously pick that back up and start over again. Yeah. I struggle every winter when it gets cold. How do I trick myself into getting, or not trick myself? How do I remind myself to get that water in when it's so cold? So, nothing is automatic. Right. And when I find that the water is slipping, then it's like, okay, well, at least I'm still really good on, and I will absolutely, I will say this 9 times out of 10 out loud to myself. Well, at least I'm still really good on protein, or at least I'm still consistent on my sleep. It's kind of like a verbal audit of what am I still doing right? What do I need to get in check? It's that self-talk, right? My body's listening. Give yourself credit for all the things that you are doing right. And even if you can't find something, then give yourself credit for the things that you're doing in life, period, that might be taking up the time you feel like you need to do the things right. Yeah. At least I'm taking care of my mom. At least my kids got everything that they need. At least I'm showing up for work. At least I'm supporting my spouse. I mean, there is always a win. And once you start, anytime you are kind to yourself, I think that it's that momentum that we've talked about. It just circles back upwards. You want to keep being kind to yourself. You want to do a little more for yourself, right? How many times have we heard the metaphor? You got to put your own face mask on first on the airplane. So, if you think about all the people who are depending on you in your life, and your service to them is what's preventing you from doing something you want to do or need to do to take care of yourself. Yeah. Be honest and reflection about that. Like you got to take care of yourself if you're going to be able to take care of all these people that love you and need you.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel like you just show up better if you're doing this, right? Like you're just going to be more present. You're just going to be able to give all of what you need to give in that moment. And a lot of folks are just empty shells, it seems like. And I know I'm generalizing, but it's like, we don't have to be that way. If you can do some of this, you're going to feel better. You're going to show up best for your family and your friends and coworkers and whatever else it is. And then, you'll be more productive. And, it just snowballs into so many good, positive things.
Yeah, I could not agree more.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, I want to give folks like a clear picture of the clients that you work with. Is there any particular stage of life or health journey that best suits folks that might want some nutritional help and do coaching with you?
The group work that I do focuses primarily on women who are looking to make some type of change to their health and weight. 9 times out of 10, they skew active. I think that there's a big mismatch in kind of the mentality around what an active body needs to lose weight versus an inactive body. And so, helping those women kind of break through those plateaus, figure out what their body needs and set that. So I do a lot of, the bread and butter is all around macros for body recomposition and weight loss. And I have a lot of kind of off the shelf group type programs that I run regularly on that regard. But then I work with a bunch of clients wherever they are to get where they want to go on a one-on-one setting. I've had a lot of really rewarding work with one-on-one clients this past year in a brand new space for me around insulin resistance. Whether it was pre-diabetes, some PCOS diagnoses, and how do we use nutrition to alleviate some of this information and correct their scores. And I mean, at the end of the day, as a nutritionist, I know macros are macros. Like I said, it's a custom calculation. So your custom calculation to address insulin sensitivity issue is very different than your macro calculation to put on, 2 pounds of muscle or drop body fat or whatever, but it's still a macro equation. And so I've really enjoyed working with those clients and the fact that they've been able to see results so quickly. And, A1Cs coming down out of the pre-diabetic range within just, I think it was like 3 months of starting our work together for one client, and about the same for another. So that's been another new space. But I also have a young kid who was trying to get ready for the military. He was just accepted into the JAG program. And so he was very academic focused in his acceptance and alignment to the military and his legal degree. But there were still some very serious physical requirements. And so he was working with a personal trainer, but also wanted a nutritionist. And so I was able to partner with his trainer, and the two of us worked on a program. Dude is down 30 pounds, just passed all of his assessments, and he reports to duty in South Carolina in January. So that's been another great win. I think I just like helping people. I used to use data to solve business problems, and now I use food to solve health problems.
There you go.
And it is so much more enjoyable.
It's so funny how that works, right?
Yeah.
Well, and you said it, and before, I know a lot of your work is focused with women, especially probably around, like you said, the balance, hormones, sustainability. But wouldn't you say that the principles we talked about today apply just as much to men who may be listening 100%. As well? I mean, it's all of us that could benefit from
everybody. Yeah. Well, I mean, we were on the same team. So, and your macros work for you. I could rattle off a bunch of men that they worked for and had great results. So, it's really just you got to pay attention to what you're putting in your body, and not because it needs to be 100% pure or organic. And, I think it's really, really hard to be a purist. I think that's a lot of noise that helps to keep people stuck. Yeah. Because you add all of that type of information on top of the confusing diets and directions that people could go in. And then to also food is poison and your food is killing you. And, it's like, why even try if everything's going to, kill me? And I just think that's a horrible message. And I don't mean that that science isn't true. I understand the threats in play, but, that doesn't mean that there's nothing that we can do about it. And back to what we've been saying, I think all along, anything is better than nothing. So find a coach, figure out what that anything is for you. And I mean, you adopt one or two of those things, and I promise you are a different person. And you start to, one of the things I like to say that Kelly did for me, Kelly's boot camp is very physical oriented, or at least for me, it was primarily a physical exercise environment before it became nutrition. And she used my body to train my mind, what I'm capable of. Like you'd show up and do these things that it's like, I can't do that. That's freaking impossible. And it's like, holy crap, I just did that. Or we do it again, a month later, 3 months later. And it's like, I did it better than I did it before. And to me, that holds true with these nutritional habits or any type of self-improvement, any type of habit to build progress. You do one or two things, and that right there is the proof point. I can do one or two things, which means I can do another one or two things. And the next thing you know, you kind of look back at where you started, and that is how progress is built. Yeah.
100%. Well, for anyone who's listening, that this is resonating with, or that they want to learn more, or reach out to you, what's the best way for folks to connect with you?
Sure. So I through my website, you can book calls. I offer free consultations and just kind of meet and greet Q&A sessions. So you can schedule that on my website. And that is nourishwithg.com. And then I also have a Facebook business page and a private community that you can join. And that's all found at Nourish with Gretchen is the Facebook page. Nourish_with Gretchen is the IG handle. So, and all of those will have like the link trees to the kind of private communities for Q&A and those types of things.
Perfect. And we'll put all that in the show notes anyway, so folks will know when you click and get you where they need you. But Gretchen, I can't thank you enough just for taking the time to be here today and sharing all your insight and wisdom. I appreciate you and our friendship, and I know this conversation is probably going to help a lot of people. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. It was so good to see you again. I love what you're doing. I love that we're able to stay connected, and here you are again, introducing me to a new crop of people.
That's it.
Thank you.
Well, and to everyone listening, just remember this: progress isn't built on perfection. It's built on consistency, intention, and staying in the game long enough for growth to compound. If today's conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to check out my book, The Progress Zone: Unlocking Your Full Potential, especially the chapters on health, foundations, and maintaining balance over the long haul. So keep showing up, keep doing the work, and keep making forward progress. And I'll see you in the next episode of The Progress Zone. Thanks for joining me in The Progress Zone. If today's episode gave you a spark, share it with a friend, subscribe, or leave a quick review. And remember, progress isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. I'm Jody Donaldson, and I'll catch you next time inside The Progress Zone.